Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast series for September Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. We're interviewing families who have gone through childhood cancer. Our guest today is Chris Thompson, mother of Darryl. To start, could you tell us about Darryl?
Darryl, like all children, Darryl was a special child. All children are wonderful and precious, and she walked before she was 1 year old, and she came one day and said, "I want to wear big girl pants," and so we skipped all the potty training and everything. Um, One of her passions was music, all genres, decades, all types, and she started learning how to play trumpet in middle school. Went on to be in marching band in high school, and in our high school, the band practiced a lot more than the football team, so it was a serious thing, big commitment. She did jazz band, concert band, and um, she was number one chair for trumpets at the All-State um, band her senior year. She went on to college at James Madison University and did marching band her freshman year. So music was her. Her second passion was helping others who couldn't protect themselves. And in the early days, it was horses, dogs, and cats. And we'd stop, she'd beg to stop because there were dogs beside the road that she wanted to take care of. Her favorite show was Pit Bulls and Parolees. And I think that's probably a little before your time, but it was a reality show about the largest pit bull rescue in the United States. And um, so in college, she ended up rescuing a bully breed, even though it wasn't allowed in her apartment, but that's another story. After college, she went to Florida Coastal um, School of Law, where she excelled in moot court. She graduated, passed the bar, and then accepted a position with the Miami Public Defender's Office. And that's when her passion um, to protect or help people who needed protection became a reality, so that she could help those who couldn't take care of themselves, essentially. She was a brave girl, and she continued to work with the public defender's office all through her first chemo. So that
Wow, that's a
she,
lot.
yeah, it is a lot, and feel free to cut out what you need to.
No, I think it's great. I love hearing about her.
Yeah. So, and I guess you want to hear about how she got cancer or what that was like.
Yeah.
Well, in Thanksgiving of 2013, we were together, and I noticed um, a red mask on her tooth, on her jaw, and asked her about it, and she said, "Oh, it's nothing. I'll go to the dentist." She went to the dentist, and the dentist said, "Oh, it's just infected gum tissue. I'll remove it." She took it off, and what Darryl said later was the most painful thing she had gone through at that point. And then it came back, and it was so painful that Darryl refused, didn't want to let the dentist do that again, and got referred to an oral surgeon. The first thing the oral surgeon said, I think, was, that might be cancer. So he biopsied it, and he made the diagnosis of rhabdomyosarcoma. And rhabdo is one of the rare cancers. And actually, it's the first time that he actually had a patient that had it. So, as you probably know, sarcomas are rare cancers that affect connective tissue. And rhabdomyosarcoma is a soft tissue cancer found usually in children. So the fact that it's relatively rare um, will sometimes delay diagnosis. And in Darryl's case, it was not only a delay in diagnosis, but a misdiagnosis that made the odds for survival even slimmer. Luckily, Miami had a sarcoma center, And, her sister flew in from South Carolina, and I flew in from Tennessee when she had surgery. And they removed the tumor, a couple of teeth, and a part of her jaw. And shortly after that, she started chemo. And she had 1 or 2 months of clear scans before the cancer came back. I have to say that it was a nightmare, roller coaster, up and down, surprises. Um, after after relapse, the they wanted to do radical disfiguring surgery, and for someone who's 27 years old, whose livelihood depends on being able to talk, that's a huge decision. So we went to Sloan Kettering in New York, got a second opinion, and they recommended radiation and chemo, which is what Darryl chose. So she finished radiation in New York, and at that time, since chemo was the chemo she was on is a standard protocol, she was able to finish it up at Vanderbilt in Nashville, which is about 3 hours from our home. Um, so, she ended that treatment at Vanderbilt in Nashville. Um, so she went to that second chemo. But after that was over, the tumor was still there. And this time it had spread to her lungs. And so, when something like that happens, the world goes dark. We didn't know what to do, who to talk to, where to go. And coincidentally, at that time was the first time I had heard of Dr. Keller and CCTDI on a rhabdomyosarcoma Facebook page. So we reached out to Dr. Keller, and for someone like him who has all those things, all this good work going on, it was it was really impressive and touching to us that he took the time, actually in his off hours, to talk with us about the latest in treatment and um, options to consider for metastasis. He mentioned, again, that was something where it was a really tough time for us, and the kindness and the information that he provided was like a calm in the storm to give us some reassurance. So at Vanderbilt, they did start entinostat. Unfortunately, it did not work. It did for a while, but then it spread to her bones. And after a couple of months, Darryl decided to stop treatment. So 3 years into treatment, she started hospice and passed away at the end of July in 2017. And as you can guess, that was all pretty devastating. In retrospect, the first chemo that she went through, that was the smooth part of the roller coaster. The relapses were peppered with hospital stays for infections and ER visits. And so we forced ourselves to live one day at a time, one step at a time, because anything else was just too overwhelming. Steve and I were fortunate to have jobs that would allow us extended time off. And so we were able to alternate weeks so that one of us could be down there with her during treatment, both in Florida and New York. So Darryl's friends at the public defender's office and her coworkers, they were just tremendous throughout the whole ordeal. They were a lifeline for Darryl, as were our other friends and families. We were just really blessed to have so much positive support. And I know that's a luxury because not everybody uh, gets that. Uh, Darryl's Darryl's dog, Kai, the one she rescued when she was in college, turned out to be a comfort to her during her treatment. And in fact, he grieved. He really took it hard when she passed. He grieved so much that we really thought we would lose him that first year. Um, but he managed to stick around and comfort us for 4 more years after that. So,
Yeah, that is a really long and rough journey, but I'm
yeah.
glad you had a whole community supporting you.
And that was really important. I mean, that that was the only way we could get through, I think.
Yeah. So, how has your perspective on childhood cancer or cancer in general changed?
Well, it, I think there are some things institutional that could be improved or fixed that really are peripheral to childhood cancer. During the whole process, for us at least, it was complicated by difficult access to pain medications. I get that narcotics are dangerous and, people die and, it causes illness. Um, I know there's a need, but, those strict controls made it almost impossible for us to get more if Darryl lost some of them, but especially while we were in Miami. So if a pill bottle spilled, I mean, we were on our knees making sure, digging everything out of the carpet just to make sure we didn't run short. And then and also when she stopped treatment at Vanderbilt and transferred to Knoxville for palliative care, the doctor in Knoxville actually tried to decrease her OxyContin prescription because he thought that the Vanderbilt doctors were being too excessive. And it's like, really? Does that matter for someone who's terminally ill? It was just so frustrating. And then on top of that, marijuana provided some relief for Darryl when she was in pain, but Tennessee does not allow marijuana, even for medical purposes. And so, do you know how difficult it is for someone like me, a 60-year-old woman who never bought marijuana, doesn't smoke it, to get it in Tennessee, on the streets? It's impossible. So, it was just crazy. We ended up, a mother will find a way to get what her daughter needs who's terminally ill. And, we were able to go through friends of friends of friends of friends to get some for her. But again, it shouldn't be that hard. I think the bright spot was that she got sufficient and compassionate pain relief when she was in hospice. And, the hospice people were just angels and they were really a blessing. Looking back, I have a deeper, more personal appreciation for the need for nonprofit organizations like CCTDI, the American Cancer Society, Hope Lodge, and Sarcoma Alliance. We interacted with all of those, and they provided vital information and support at a time when we didn't know where to turn, what to do next. We couldn't take one more thing on our plate. And just as an example, the cost of lodging in Manhattan for 2 months while Darryl was being treated, on top of food and travel, that would have been financially devastating for even two people, even a family that has two people who are working. Luckily, Hope Lodge was available for us both in New York and Nashville. So it took a lot of the pressure off.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the pain medication is really interesting because I actually never thought of it before, but
We
yeah.
lived it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. That anyway, you know, after she passed, we donated some of Daryl's tumors to CCTDI, and they successfully used it to do a mouse model. And being able to grow her tumor in mice would allow researchers at CCTDI and other labs around the world to test medicines for her kind of cancer. You know, Darryl also had her eggs frozen before she started chemo, and we donated those to CCTDI too for future epigenetic studies. You after she passed that first year, um, we have a Filipino tradition of a special dinner to remember our loved one uh, after they pass, and we had our extended family honoring her with a party by the ocean with live music and seafood and beer. And I think Darryl would really have loved that. But now her father, her sister, and I, we celebrate her anniversary doing things that Darryl would have enjoyed, like going to a winery or hike at the state park or, having a great meal at a restaurant. And we make donations to um, animal rescues in her name. You know, the other thing we do is we send flowers, sunflowers, to each other or pictures of sunflowers or T-shirts with sunflowers because they represent sarcoma awareness.
Yeah, I think it's really great everything you're doing.
Thanks. She's been gone now for 8 years, and it took 3 years before I could bring myself to cut the service to her cell phone. That's how hard it was. I've done a few online efforts to raise funds for CCTDI and the American Cancer Society in her memory. Um, but I guess I could close by saying, um, you know, one of my concerns, a big concern, is that given current federal priorities, um, you know, I'm concerned about the potential impact on medical research, particularly in finding cures for cancers like rhabdomyosarcoma, childhood cancers. I mean, today, I think it's even more important for family and friends who've been affected by childhood cancers to increase awareness about human impact, the human impact. I mean, it's a huge deal. Um, and we need to increase the awareness in ways that can attract and generate additional funding. I know that CCTDI is working proactively to help address potential shortfalls, and they established the Research Contingency Fund. Um, my husband and I talked about it, and we feel it's so important that we made a recurring donation. And what we could do was only a minor thing, I'm sure, but we did it with the hope that important research will continue so that other children have better outcomes than Darryl did in the future. Um, so
Yeah, you're doing amazing.
I mean, it's not enough, but we do what we can. So
Yeah, and I think that's just what matters, is
yeah,
doing whatever you can.
yeah.
All right, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Um, I don't have anything else, but I tell you, I really appreciate your inviting me to join you on the podcast because what you're doing really is important to increasing awareness about childhood cancers. And I'll tell you, it's been 11 years since we started the cancer journey with Darryl, and remembering it this week to prepare to talk with you has been somewhat cathartic. So I thank you for that too.
I mean, I really enjoyed learning about Darryl.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.